Welcome back to the channel, guys. So my thoughts on El Salvador accepting Bitcoin. This is interesting. This is good. Maybe. What will the IMF do? So what is the IMF, the International Monetary Fund? If you guys are unfamiliar with what that is, it's a group of elite banksters that were created at Bretton Woods in 1944, right before we won World War II. It was like pretty obvious at that point that the U.S. is going to win World War II. So everyone got together in New Hampshire at this hotel called Bretton Woods. Still exists today. Really cool white it's like white paint, like very wood and rustic. It's a cool place. We should do a conference there. Like we should do like a meetup, like on-site meetup there. Anyway, Bretton Woods, they get together and they're like, so basically America's going to run the money. Like that's pretty much the conversation. And at that time, there was an idea of creating the Bancor, which is like a basket of currencies for international trade. Previous to this, we had just used gold. And so what America did was they were like, hey, our dollar is backed by gold. Today it's not. A lot of people think it is. It's not backed by gold. It's backed by guns, the military guns, and your faith and trust in the dollar, which is pretty pathetic because the dollar has literally lost 90% of its value since 1913 when we created the Fed. But nonetheless, I digress. Bretton Woods happens, and we create the IMF, International Monetary Fund, for the purpose of bailing out central banks when they need to get bailed out. Probably this year, we might see like the EU, European Union central banks, so we might see them get bailed out because they're like not in good shape. We'll see, but like we're about to see some central bankers get bailed out in a big kind of way, and the IMF is set there to be like this shadow government bankster body of individuals. And if I disappear one day, it was definitely the IMF. But here's the thing: I think that we're living in a revolutionary time period, and I think that they're going to lose. And so El Salvador accepting Bitcoin, they don't have anything to lose, really. Like if you look at El Salvador, I've never been there, but I knew triplets that were born in El Salvador, and then they were adopted here in America, and I went to school with them. Really, really awesome people. And El Salvador doesn't have a lot to lose by adopting Bitcoin, and they have more to gain. Actually, they have a tremendous amount to gain as adopting it for legal tender because a lot of capital is going to flow in El Salvador. I, for one, wonder if Michael Saylor is going to invest in El Salvador. He should. Probably he won't, because I got a feeling that Saylor is doing more of a pump. I'm not saying a dump thing, but I think Saylor is doing more of a Ponzi scheme thing. Like he's trying to make something true that he wants to be true. And being around Bitcoin since 2011, like July of 2011, I've seen a lot of things in that space, and I've watched it, and it's a cool technology. It's just not like the one. And a lot of Bitcoin people are gonna you're gonna see them in the comments. They're gonna be like, it's just like, it's not private. Like we thought it was private. Money has to be private. Gold has to be private. Digital gold certainly has to be private. I love the idea of cryptocurrencies, but the idea of Bitcoin is like probably going to be accepted by most governments. They're going to have to. It's going to be a compromise. And that's kind of my concern with Bitcoin, and like guys like Saylor, Musk, other guys getting involved in it is like, it's a compromise. And the idea of cryptocurrency from the original white papers, if you read them, is pretty much like, let's get rid of government money. Like that's pretty much the game. Like, let's not pussyfoot around this. Let's just call a spade a spade. We hate government money. It's corrupt. It leads to the enrichment of the elites and the extravagant mistreatment of the poor and middle class. It causes endless wars and death and destruction. It's got to go. It's garbage. And it's funny to see the guys hate on Dogecoin. Like the guys are like, oh, well, it's inflationary. Like, let's do the math real quick. 27 trillion American dollars. 40% of them were created last year. Endless amount of currency printing and given to the elites, number one, before they trickle down, which is a bullshit concept. And Dogecoin has 129 billion coins and inflates indefinitely at 5%, or 5 billion coins a year. So the percentage drops and drops and drops. It's not even 5%. It's 3.5, I think 3.4 this year, whatever that may be. And then next year it's lower and lower as the supply increases. Makes the network very fast, makes the coin price very inexpensive, still public ledger. But you know, it exists and it's there, and Gen Z really likes it, and I like it because they like it. and it's fast and it's good to use, but it's not private. And all the Bitcoin people will tell you like, well, there could be this layer 2 lightning network and like, it'll be awesome. And it's like, no, like it's amazing store of value. It's a great value store. Is it a currency? No, it's not a currency. But El Salvador adopting it for a currency is unique because it actually gets use case. What will the IMF do to a country like El Salvador? They'll probably try to oust them. Other countries will probably sanction them. And we'll see if El Salvador has the chops to hang in. We'll also see if guys like Michael Saylor want to invest in that place. Like, so I think we're going to see this revolutionary period of time where like the elites start picking their teams. And it's like, do you want to hang with the money printer go burr? Or do you want to hang with like, currencies that can't be printed, whether it's Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum is kind of a different use case, Doge. The private ones are, in my opinion, the ones that are the real Bitcoins. Like Monero is probably the real Bitcoin. And I don't think people figure that out, and I don't want them to figure that out. Not enough people watch this channel for them to figure that out, so that's fine, because I want to keep collecting that. Like, I'm literally trying to get thousands of Monero, because, like, I just know where this goes, like 5, 10, 6 years down the road, whatever that may be. At some point, Bitcoin will be adopted into their new Fed digital currency. I have no doubt about it, because the Bitcoin lobby is strong, and a lot of senators and Congress people actually have Bitcoin. Like, they've had it for, like, 10 years. Like, I was in D.C. in 2011. They definitely had some. Like, yeah. They do. So they have a lot to gain from that. Plus, it's fully trackable. It's fully public. There's no reason why they'd really be against it, especially if it's not being used. And no one's using it. Like, Michael Saylor's not using it. Elon's not really... He was going to use it, and then he bailed out because he bailed. Elon might be a psyop. I'm not really sure if that's, like, the real deal or not, or if he's, like, like a sponsored character. He's a cool guy. I like him, but I met Thiel one time, Peter Thiel, in 2012, 2013 at a Liberty conference in DC. And I asked him about Elon like a rookie. And there are Bitcoin machines, like you could exchange your cash to get Bitcoin and stuff around there. Anyway, so I talked to Thiel and I asked him about Elon, and he was just kind of like, yeah. So I'm like, maybe Elon's more fake than we think. But I don't know. I mean, I love Elon. I'm a big fan. But nonetheless... is the IMF or other world governments that have a lot to lose by losing control of their currency and money supply going to bash up on El Salvador? I just don't think they have a lot to lose. I honestly think that this is a good thing. And I think that we may see this occur more regularly with other smaller nations. At least I hope we do. But I don't think that it is the end-all solution. I think that we're moving to a decentralized finance world. I think we're moving to decentralize everything. But I think that there will be battles to be fought psychologically, privately, publicly, violently, reputational, economical. I think that we're going to be in a warlike period of time. And if it goes to a hot war, then it's, the end is near. But I think until then, we're going to see more of this media bias and individuals pushing for their narrative. But at the end of the day, the people need a money and a currency system that is not controlled by a super elite political group that has been there for decades upon decades and have robbed and pillaged, particularly North America, for the last 30 or 40 years, 50 years really, since we pulled off the gold standard. So we need to fix this. We need to correct this. But I think it's immense positive. I just think that the one thing to remember is that Bitcoin is not private and that it's very slow and it's a good store of value. I think at this point it might be early for most people to accept that, but I think like if I were selling a property and I had a large amount of money to hold on to and I wasn't buying anything for a year or two, particularly 3, statistically Bitcoin would be the way to stay. As it would be where to hold your currency. Bitcoin over any 36-month period has always benefited the holder, even almost every 24 almost. So if you've got a long-term holding period, 36 months or longer, I just think that Bitcoin's a great place to hold it, but I also think it's a compromise, and eventually people will use that. This brings me to my last point here, which is most people don't own it, and I mean they don't own it, but they think they own it. And so a lot of people are like hitting me up, like, oh, like my buddies and stuff. Like, hey, bro, I bought some Dogecoin. I bought some Bitcoin. And I'm like, oh, cool, man. Like, what wallet are you using? Robinhood? Yeah, okay, you have no idea what you're doing. And so because of that, I think that we'll probably see a pump and then a crash, like a pump and a dump. Kind of like the dot-com bubble. Like Amazon's a stock to buy. Amazon at 106, 126 is a great stock to buy, being that it's trading at 3,200. But Amazon does dump to $6 in the very bottom, and then it pumps back from there. I'd love to buy it at 106. Love to buy it at 126. I'd love to buy it at 6. If I could buy it at 6, if I bought it at 126 and then a year later it was at 6, I'd be like, crap, but I'd just attempt to buy more. Because it's Amazon, and if you know what it was, you know what it was. If you know what Bitcoin is, you know what it is. There's 21 million coins. Each coin is divisible up to 100 million units, called a Satoshi. $1 will basically buy you like over 2,000 Satoshis at the current price. And the long-term vision for Bitcoin is to basically replace the world currency, which actually would totally make sense for the global elites because they would be able to fully track it. There would need to be some lightning layer or something like that, but ultimately they could track it, then they could control it through the mining system, and they could regulate it in any way they want. So it's kind of a backdoor way to control everybody. Also why I think real cryptocurrency is private, period. I mean, there's just no way. It has to be private. And it can't be like layer 2, layer 3. The base of your pyramid, of your foundation, needs to be strong. You can't just be like, oh, when we get to the 3rd story, we'll start building it out of metal and rock. It's like, what do you build in the bottom one? Toothpicks and styrofoam. Nope. I want my rock on the bottom layer. And if we go to toothpicks or anything like that, I'm okay at the very, very tippity top. But at the bottom layer, I need it to be strong. Really, really strong. And Bitcoin to me is not built on that foundation. It may have a lot of hash power. But there's nothing in the history of mankind that we've ever seen that the first thing was the thing. MySpace isn't here. I mean, it's just not the thing. There were other video sharing platforms before YouTube, and there was AOL chat before Facebook. It's just not the thing. And I would argue even like Facebook and Instagram and all those other networks are probably in the beginning stages of being replaced, probably by decentralized things, which is cool. But the point there being is like MySpace isn't it. But I do think it's a real positive that El Salvador has adopted this, that we now have a small country that's adopted this. Maybe others will follow. That is good for the entire crypto space. And there will probably be a crash because people are buying derivatives of these cryptos. So they're buying like things on Robinhood or whatever trading platform they're using for the price dump and pump in USD. Well, the point of having a Bitcoin is having a Bitcoin, not that the Bitcoin is worth 100,000 or worth 4,000 or worth $1 million. It's how many Bitcoin do you have? Who cares what it's priced at in USD? Except people transact in USD. And I think that the real winning here is that we don't price things in USD. Maybe we price them in Bitcoin or Satoshis. That's cool. And that's a totally different world. Maybe we price them in units of gold or units of silver or whatever. But pricing things in a currency where 40% of it was created last year and there's 27 trillion of them floating around the globe. We don't even know how many of them. Like, it's just kind of a weird thing to price in. It's just what people are used to and find normal. So nonetheless, I think it's a super positive. I think that there are major hindrances between now and there, between like where we're going. But I do think it's amazing. I think there's going to be a lot of capital that's going to flow into El Salvador because sending Bitcoin's way faster than sending USD or any of that other stuff. So I think that that's cool. And I think that they're going to see an economic boom, and then other nations like them will probably follow suit. I do think, though, that you should watch for the crypto crash, because people have derivatives of crypto, and when they realize that they're not really trying to get more USD, that they're more trying to get more Litecoin, Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Digibyte, Monero, because it's a real Bitcoin. Like, when they really start going for stuff like that, then it's going to be like, oh, I have to sell on Robinhood to then buy somewhere else. And so they're going to sell, which will create sell orders. There probably will be more selling than buying. They'll pay tax, so they won't be able to get as much when they transfer over. Robinhood always says, oh, we'll let you have your own wallet. They're not going to let you do that. You have a derivative. You don't own the real thing. So what I'm saying is that people are making bets on something that they need to own. And at some point in time, when we get to this currency reset and nations like El Salvador are leading the way, that's positive for them, but also creates a lot of selling in the market and then a lot of buying on the back end. So expect a crash. What I'm saying is expect an Amazon-like crash. It goes to 106, 126, drops down to 6 in the dot-com bubble, buy, and all at the end of the day, just sit and wait for 20 years and you got $3,000 Amazon. I think Bitcoin's the exact same thing. It's a great use case. It's as far as working inside of a government system, it's a compromise. It's not the solution, but it will be accepted everywhere long term. Long term, it's best brand out there, and it will be accepted long term. But ultimately, you have to watch for Bitcoin 2.0. And being around since 2011, seeing it from $3 all the way to 60 something dollars this year, and then bounces back, but it's not really retracing that much. I mean, it goes down to 29 for a day and then bounces back to 40, and it's maintaining value. It's doing really good, and people are adopting it, and it's becoming aware, and it's really the tip of the spear as far as infiltrating crypto. But until we have crypto used for goods and services, until I can go and do transactions with my buddies and hey man, I'm buying a beer at a bar using crypto, that's winning. And until we get to that spot, we're not going to have winning. We're going to have derivatives of and people pricing things in USD. Ultimately, we're going to come back to the USD. And until we decide to divorce that power between what the government has and us, because we create the goods and services, until we decide to say, you know what, if the government's going to exist, you guys need to provide us goods and services that we value, and we'll pay for them at that point. Until that happens, it's not going to happen. Peace.